Good morning, students. Today we begin with the third year classes. And in the first class of the third year, we are going to begin with a story titled The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. Since this is a first class, I have picked up a very short and an interesting story. As the title suggests, The Gift of the Magi, let me first elaborate on the topic, on the title. Now, who were Magi? Magi were the biblical men or the three wise men from the east who brought gift when Jesus Christ was born. These three kings or three wise men or whatsoever you can call them were those people who had brought little small precious gifts for the baby Jesus. Though the gift were of no value to Jesus at that particular time, but from that particular point of time, the tradition of giving gifts and receiving gifts on Christmas was started. Hence, Christmas is associated with giving and receiving gifts. So the title of the story, The Gift of the Magi, is a story which encompasses the story of a young couple, Jim and Della. Now the interesting part of the story is that Jim and Della happen to be from a very mediocre family, from a very middle class family with very few resources at their disposal. They don't have any kind of affluence, they don't have money, they don't have diamonds. But the one thing in the story that O. Henry mentions is that as a couple, both of them love each other a lot and they are ready to sacrifice their valued possession to make each other happy. Now, before we take up the story step by step, let me tell you about two interesting things in the story. The first is the protagonist of the story, Jim, has a watch of which he is very proud of. This watch has been given to him from his father, who received it from his father, and hence this is a gift which has been passed on from generation to generation. It is a valuable gift, it is a family gift. It is something which Jim keeps close to his heart and will not want to, give it to anybody or to keep it away at any point of time. Now, when we talk of Jim, we talk that there is only one valued possession in his life, and that is his beautiful, magnificent watch. Now, when we come to the second protagonist of the story, the female protagonist, Della, the writer explains that Della is blessed with long beautiful hair of which Della is very proud of, and not only Della is proud of, but even Jim is also proud of the beautiful hair of his wife. Now both Jim and Della have two valuable things to themselves. Jim has his watch and Della has her long beautiful hair. Now when the story begins, Della is seen counting the money, and when she has finished counting the money, it amounts to $1.87. $1.87, and out of that 60 cents had been collected in pennies. Now the writer elaborates that collected in pennies refer to the term in which Della had collected small bits of money by saving here and there from the grocery shop or from the vegetable vendor, or from squeezing away money from somewhere just to keep them intact, probably wanting to give a gift to Jim on Christmas. Now Christmas is next day, and when she counts the money, she realizes that it is very less. So less in the sense that even if she is wanting to buy something very reasonable, something very good for Jim, she will not be in a position to buy that gift for him. She keeps on counting it, but counting does not increase the money. So finally she does nothing. She just falls down on the couch and she starts weeping because there is no other option left to it. Now, when all this is happening, when the lady of the house is busy gathering herself, trying to console herself as to what can she give her husband on the day of Christmas, the writer takes a look at the house. The condition of the house has deteriorated over the passage of time, and this deterioration has been shown by few small facts in the story. A first thing that the writer brings to our notice is the nameplate which was there, which earlier had Mrs. James Dillingham Young. But as time passed, as there was less of money, the letters started getting blurred, and after a point of time, some of the letters were even invisible. The doorbell, which was supposed to be a doorbell, was nothing but a sheer wreck. The condition of the house was also not very good, and this is explained by the writer in the fact that they didn't have a, you can say, a justifiable mirror even to look into it. There was something which was, small space between the two windows where one could fix the glass, and then Della would look at herself in that mirror, and then she would realize, oh my God, I'm looking this way, and then she would go on. So the condition of the house depicts that as a couple they didn't have much money, but there is one thing that the writer points out in the whole scenario is that no matter they didn't have money to themselves, no matter they have very little resources, but the one thing that was very much highlighted in the story is the love that Jim felt for Della, and Della reciprocating the same love which she feels for Jim. So both of them were deeply in love with each other, and both of them wanted each other to be very happy. Now, this is the factor that generates the whole story, that since it is Christmas, both Jim and Della are wanting to surprise each other by giving them something very valuable, something very good, so that they remember it. Now, again we shift to Della. When Della is just thinking over that what is she going to do with the little money that she has with her, she just stands up and she looks at the pier glass which is there, and then she just opens her hair. She removes the buckle from her hair, and when the hair falls down, it's such a beautiful that the writer compares as if it is a waterfall coming down. And suddenly Della comes up with an idea. She immediately ties her hair, she rushes out of the room, and she immediately lands up in a salon where she just sells off her hair to get some money. Now with the money that she has got with herself, she goes to the market, she ransacks the different shops for the most price item that she can get for Jim. And then she chances upon a beautiful chain, a platinum chain which she thinks is the best gift for Jim, which will go well with the watch that he has, because she realizes that the strap of the watch has become very old, though the watch is very nice. But Jim is a little reluctant, a little shy in looking at the time when he is in public, because he realizes that the strap is very old and torn and tattered. So she purchases a chain for the beautiful watch that Jim has, and satisfied with what she has done, she comes home. But when she comes home, she realizes that she has done a mistake, she's committed a mistake. And what was the mistake is that when Jim comes home in the evening, he would be really flabbergasted to see what has happened to the hair of Della. Or we can say the writer makes us assume that probably Jim will be a little disappointed, because he was so madly in love with the beautiful hair of Della, that Della realizes that probably he's not going to love her in the same way that he did earlier, because she had long beautiful hair, and now she was just left with the small haircut that she had got. So with this anxiety, with this nervousness, Della prepares for the evening tea, waiting for Jim to come at the appropriate time. Now, as we are reaching towards the climax of the story, the mood is set when the time of the evening comes and Jim enters the house. So Jim enters the house. The description of the writer is that he looks a man who's walked down with too much of difficulties. He appears to be very thin. And when he reaches home, he just sits, and Della is a little worried, because what is going to be the reaction of Jim when he looks at her with the short haircut that she has done, sacrificing her long beautiful hair. Now when Jim just looks at Della, words cannot put that expression, but he is just wonderstruck. He is in such an awe when he looks at Della. He doesn't know how to react to it. And we at that point of time also do not realize why Jim is giving out this particular reaction. But seconds later we come to know that Jim is giving this reaction because he puts out something from his pocket and puts it on the table. And when he puts it on the table and Della looks at it, she sees the most beautiful combs to be put in the hair, which she has long looked for in a Broadway window and had wanted to possess them. And she knew they were very costly. She just looked at them, she just admired them, never wanting them. But here, Jim had brought that beautiful gift for her to be put in the beautiful hair that she had. And then Della starts crying. She starts crying because she realizes Oh my God, what has been done by Jim? Jim has brought those beautiful combs for her, but she doesn't have that hair to put those beautiful combs. But then she is convinced of the fact that never mind, whatever Jim has brought for her is of no use to her. But probably what she has brought for Jim might be of use to her. And then she brings out that chain and she puts it and she shows it to Jim and she said, "Look, this is a beautiful chain I have got for you. Watch." And then Jim again gives that expression, which again cannot be put into words. He says, "My dear Della, I have sold the watch to get these beautiful combs for you." And Della, wanting to say that I have sold my beautiful hair to get this chain for you. Now the climax of the story is, sad in the sense that both of them love only two things. Jim loved his watch and Della loved her beautiful hair. Both of them sacrificed each other's their own valued possession to get something good for them, but the gifts they eventually brought for each other had no value for them, because the combs that Jim brought for Della's hair, no longer Della had that long beautiful hair, and the chain which Della had brought for Jim's watch, the watch was no longer there with Jim. So ultimately they keep away their presence to the side and say to each other and love each other and console each other that after a point of time the hair is going to grow and probably Della will be in a position to put that beautiful combs back into her hair. So O. Henry is a master storyteller. He has just highlighted through the title that when Magi brought those beautiful gifts for Jesus had no value for them. In the same manner, Jim and Della purchased such beautiful gifts for each other, which were of no value to them, which were of no significance to them at that particular point of time. But there is one important thing that the writer highlights is the tradition of giving gifts. And here Jim and Della sacrifice their most valued possessions to make each other happy. And ultimately this is the goal of life, that whatsoever you do, you should make the person whom you love very happy. So the story finishes here. In tomorrow's class we will take up the critical summary and the analysis of the story. Thank you, students.